All right. And we're live. Welcome, everyone. Happy Friday. Thanks for tuning in to our developer live stream, our Lava and Axelar demo day. My name is Kate Steepleton. I am the community lead at Axelar. I've been here for almost 3 years, which in crypto is about 10 years. um, so yeah, if you're on the Discord, if you're on the Telegram, you'll probably see me answering questions and sometimes fighting for my life. But yeah, so that's me in a nutshell. I will pass it over to my co-host from Lava to introduce himself.
All right, greetings everybody. Very happy to be here on Axelar Learn. My name is Kagemni Karimu. I'm the developer relations engineer for Lava. Very excited to share this demo with you here today. Lava is fairly new in the RPC arena. We do Web3 APIs, but I think with a small introduction, you'd be quite pleased with what you see.
Awesome. So yeah, without further ado, let's. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to kind of remove myself from the stream, and then we'll do a full walkthrough and demo on how to get started with Lava and Axelar's RPC endpoints. And then at the end, we're going to have kind of a larger form discussion and let you guys know what's coming up, some opportunities that you can leverage right now, and how to get more involved with Lava. So without further ado, I will pass it off.
All right. So for those who are not already aware, Axelar uses Lava to serve RPC, and it's primarily a resource for the developer community. Lava aggregates and routes RPC requests to a peer-to-peer network full of high quality RPC providers. So RPC is the base communication layer, data access layer for Web3 and blockchains. And Lava has a lot of built-in features like fraud detection, conflict resolution, fallback, quality of service guarantees. So if you're using RPC, which if you're building apps, you must use RPC, then Lava is a really great option, really great way to do it. And Axelar now having the support for Lava fully is it gives you a pretty cool way to integrate RPC directly into your apps. So if you're building dApps, look no further than Lava's IPRPC, incentivized public RPC. Here you see on the screen, Axelar public RPC, all endpoints rolled into one. There are several endpoints for both mainnet and testnet. This page gives you some hint. This is on Lava's website. Of course, another place that I'd like to direct you just to get an orientation going is here on the Axelar documentation. If you go to the developer docs on Axelar docs, it's actually a really helpful guide that can orient you and let you know more about this. The way that IPRPC works, or incentivized public RPC works, is that the providers are actually paid by Axelar to provide on this endpoint. So you're getting the equivalent of a whole bunch of different RPC providers who are working behind the scenes to service this one endpoint. So your request is intelligently routed to the best provider who can answer in the least amount of time. So here you have the endpoints. And just for reference, this is under the resources section of the docs where it says using IPRPC, free public RPC. So you can find this pretty easily. Here you have a list of the different endpoints. Tendermint RPC WebSockets, REST, gRPC are all supported for both mainnet and testnet. So regardless of which one you're deciding to build upon, it's really great, really easy to do. All you get is these URLs. And of course, even if you're using Axelar D, which is something that I always recommend, using something like IPRPC URL on your local machine, because it allows you to, if you're not running your own node, it allows you to much faster get the information. So just as a short demonstration of that, pull up my terminal. So I'm in the Axelar core folder, and I'll see I do have Axelar D on my machine. So you see that there's a status command that we can use. And with this, we'll just use this endpoint. It's a Tendermint endpoint. It's really cool that we can just plug and play. Dash in. Should be able to. And very quickly, we can get the node info and get the block response. So it just shows you that the IPRPC endpoint is accessible, usable with Axelar D. It's accessible, it's usable from dApps or other third-party libraries, which can lead to some really interesting integrations. And because you've got these different, Tendermint, REST, gRPC, you can have some novel integrations. And just as a demonstration, I mean, let's say I want to access them from my command line. Obviously, I've got the ability to hit the REST endpoint or the Tendermint endpoint with the curl command, which I'll just do to demonstrate. It's a simple curl command that will hit that Tendermint endpoint and return a block response very quickly. And then the other one I wanted to demonstrate is gRPC, because this is fairly rare to see, gRPC. So once again, you get the response that you're looking for. So very cool that this works this way, where you can hit these endpoints. But this is the basic functionality of IP-RPC. One of the unique things that you'll know is that, just like any other URL that you would use when building a dApp, you can just plug and play into most libraries or dApps that require RPC URL. So I was just looking at Squid, huge fan of Squid SDK. And so even in Squid SDK, if you're doing some sort of swap that involves Axelar as a from chain, you can, of course, use the RPC URL of the IP-RPC directly in the code of your Squid SDK. So really great novel usages for IP-RPC, something that we should all be familiar with. But of course, there is a level of interaction and use beyond using URLs. And that's where we introduced Lava SDK. Lava SDK is currently in its beta form, which means that we've implemented a number of new features for Lava Phase 2. And with it, you can easily access on a multi-chain basis many chains, get RPC, low latency, peer-to-peer. And the beauty of it is there's no URL. You never need to put a URL into your code at all. You don't even need to enter your private key. So I'd like to demo Lava SDK Beta just to show how this works pretty simply. So I think the first thing we'll do is just return to the terminal. And I'm going to cd, let's see, I'm going to go back one, and we'll make a directory called Axelar example project. Now that we've made that directory, let's go inside of it. And inside the directory, let us run an npm init just to create a node package manager package.json file so that we can install Lava SDK. And so from there, we'll do npm I or npm install if you prefer at lavanet/lava-sdk. We'll go ahead and install Lava SDK. This will take probably under a minute. It's just going to go through and install all the dependencies for Lava SDK. One of the really cool things about it is once it's installed, very few lines of code required to get started. While this is installing, if you haven't already, what I recommend doing is going to gateway.lavanet.xyz and creating an account. You can see here, you can sign up for an account. It's not strictly required to use the SDK, but understand when you're using the SDK and you're making these calls to various chains, there is a compute unit cost, nominal compute unit cost to each one of these calls. And that is being, we'll say, paid for, accounted for by a subscription or a private key, which has staked on those chains and can afford it. So what the easiest way to get around this is to create something called a badge, which allows you to obscure your private key. So the creation of a badge is best done through Lava's gateway, which is why we're recommending this. Of course, if you'd like to get into the weeds of how to create your own badge server, create your own badges, or use your own private key on the back end without using the gateway, it's very much possible. And I would definitely recommend looking at docs.lavanet.xyz. But for the sake of this example, we're going to keep it really simple and show you just how easy it is to get started. So as you can see, our npm install has succeeded in about 1 minute. So we have the correct thing. Let's go ahead and create well, let's make sure everything installed correctly. Okay, we have a node modules folder. We'll create Axelar.js. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and sign into my gateway account. You may need to create one. And I'm going to create a project. The project is going to call Axelar example. And here I'm going to select Axelar as the chain that I want to create. So what is happening basically is that the gateway is creating a subscription with this. It's creating the ability for you to use a badge on this specific chain. So that was not well explained, but to best understand it is that the gateway will be subsidizing or allowing you to make calls on this chain. So just that simple. We've added Axelar, and we see that we have Axelar API access. And so now we can go straight back to our terminal, and I'm just going to use code. I'm going to cheat. If that's cheating nowadays, I know a lot of people are accustomed to that. Okay. So we have code here. And so really the basic thing that we have to do to set this up is pretty straightforward. The first thing is to pull in the Lava SDK class from LavaNet, Lava SDK. Once we've pulled in that class, one of the easiest ways to do this is we can wrap this whole thing in an asynchronous function. We'll call this function get latest Axelar block info. Okay. So within this asynchronous function, we're going to want to initialize the SDK. The SDK can actually be initialized with 3 different commands. You can use create, which is all of them require a wait, but you can use create, you can use, which is a method on that class, or you can use new. New does not automatically initialize the SDK, so you will need to call init as a method, or you can call a relay, which will initialize once before the relay is made. So I always recommend using create. I think it's the easiest interface to work with, but if you have a special use case where you want to delay initialization, then you can, of course, do something different. But here we'll create a thing called the Axelar handler, and that's just Lava SDK, which is going to do our sending of relays. So this Lava SDK options is a series of different parameters. The main thing that you'll have to see, there's not really a bunch of parameters that we have to put in. If we're using this on the front end, really we can just go straight here, Lava SDK, using the front end. Of course, I'm on the gateway. And here we have this badge. So to explain, badges or private keys will always be necessary in order to make the contact with the chain and to succeed in the relay request. So I use badges. Badges are very, very simple. It's generated automatically by the gateway. So you have it right here. You can just copy and paste it straight into your code. And that gives you the permission to make any call that you want. Of course, chain IDs wise, we actually initialize 2 chains. So I'm going to make it an array. Axelar as well as Axelar T. The RPC interface doesn't necessarily need to be specified here. As I said, a lot of these options are optional. And the geolocation here is also optional, just so you know. I'm using one which indicates the US because that is where I'm located. But once again, these are optional. So really, the main thing that you need to initialize is the badge, or if we were doing a different way, we would do with the private key. And I would not ever recommend putting your private key in plain text, even if you're working on the back end. So, you know, using an environmental variable to obscure it is always a good best practice. It's often what I link to or recommend in the docs. So here we have the constant Axelar handler, which is created. And then what we can do here is to we'll go ahead and use the Tendermint HTTP, and let's do const block info equals await, and then we'll just go ahead and do Axelar handler dot, and we're using the send relay method. Oops, sorry, send relay. I don't know how those parentheses migrated there. Okay. So once we've got this send relay set up, all we need to do is tell it the method that we want to do and the RPC interface, because we didn't specify. In addition to that, because we actually specified 2 different chain IDs here, we're going to want to specify which chain we're trying to talk to. This is the Axelar handler needs to know, okay, am I sending this to the test net? Or am I sending it to the main net? Well, in this case, you're sending it to the main net. So we'll do chain ID Axelar. If you don't specify, it will give you an error and tell you which chain do you want to send it to. And remember, you don't have to, this is an Axelar handler we created, but let's say you had a dApp that uses Axelar but uses a couple other chains. You would just make sure that you add those API accesses on the gateway, and then you could specify really as many chain IDs as you wanted. So you could have pretty much any of Lava's supported chains on here talking with Axelar, and then you probably wouldn't call this an Axelar handler, you call it a Lava handler or something, and you can send a bunch of different relay requests across different architectures and chain types. So it's really cool, works pretty nicely. So we have this block info constant that we've created, which should retrieve the API, the ABCI info, and then just as a kind of test, let's just see how this works. So we'll log block info to the console. So to make this work well, I'm going to wrap this whole thing in an anonymous asynchronous function. This is a common design pattern that I use for this. We'll get the latest Axelar block info, which is what we want, and then we'll call that. Okay. All right. New terminal. And from here, we should be able to just go ahead and run. Notice that all was needed was our project ID and the batch server address. Send relay is not a function. Little bit, let's see what's going on. It may not need this await. Okay, I see what the issue is. All right, please excuse. So these lines we're going to add. Just want to show this to you. So you have your Axelar handler. We'll do console.log. I'm sorry, response. Here in this example that I switched to, just for convenience sake, I didn't want to take too long. This is called response instead of block info, and get latest Axelar block instead of get latest Axelar block info. Same difference though. We're going to go ahead and run this. And so we see that we do have a successful response. So it gives us back a JSON RPC. Okay, we have a couple different providers that are also being consulted, where we're getting a couple errors there, but we do have our successful response returned to us. So we should be able to parse that response. Keep in mind that Lava is contacting multiple providers, so sometimes you will see additional messages from other providers. It's not necessarily something to panic about. It is something to take note of. So we can go ahead and parse out that response. And let's say we want to get, the last block height. So we'll take the response and we'll take the result, and then we'll take the response, and then we'll take last block height. So we're basically just destructuring this. And same thing, let's do last block app hash, same thing. We'll take the response, the result, the response, and last block app hash. So now that we've captured these two in constants, we can of course log them to the console. So we'll say the latest block height is, and we'll put our last block height here. And then we'll do console.log the latest block app hash is. And we'll put our last block app hash. Boom. So we go ahead and do that. We should be able to run this. Just scanning my code to see if there's anything crazy that I did that the demo gremlins don't give me. All right, and then within a second, we should get our latest block height, latest block app hash returned straight from the SDK. So mind you, all of this is happening peer-to-peer. We never used a URL. It's a simple example that shows how you could take this, you could wrap it in React hooks, present it on a front end, add some nice buttons and dashboard and things like that. But it's a very simple example that just illustrates how the badges work. One other thing I'd like to show you, or two other things I'd like to show you. Like I said, this right here, where you're doing the create, you are entering options or parameters, and there's a list in our docs of the different options that you have. Like I said, the only really required one is going to be the private key or the badge, because that's what's going to allow you to make the requests. There's also the chain IDs, pairing list config, geolocation, some of these other, if you want to change the transport at the log level, you can do all this type of stuff if you have higher needs for configurability. But for simplicity's sake, you really only need the badge and the chain IDs to really get started. With that, additionally, want to consider that for some, they may already have a private key. And so you can actually, on the gateway, just add your project keys, add a new key, and you can generate one. Let's say you don't have a Lava key. You can say my Axelar project key. And obviously you'd want to copy and save this or download the seed phrase. Save my keys, and now you can use your key in the backend where it says private key. It's already subscribed through the gateway. It has a subscription to these different chains, so you can automatically use it directly in your code. As I recommend, hide it in a environmental variable, but other than that, you should be good to go. And it's really cool because with the gateway, you will actually get some analytics to be able to view your project, as well as some security settings that you can play around with. So Gateway has its utilities. This is Lava SDK Beta. There's a lot of really cool more features coming as far as the interfaces, where you'll be able to send specific relays targeting certain chains using the same method calls and such. But this is how it exists today. And I hope that it's useful for you in your building of your dApps. Certainly been useful for me in building of my examples. So with that, Kate, I think we can talk a little bit about what Lava has in store, or what Lava's been working on.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for that demo. Honestly, live coding, very brave. Takes a certain amount of skill and confidence to, to get on any sort of stream, on stage, live stream, and live code. I know there's been a bunch of times where myself or someone on the team is up there and they're like, we're just going to pretend that worked and move on. So
Yeah. You saw those errors that I did not want to debug or troubleshoot at the moment.
yeah, I mean, that's part of coding. There's some people that get up there and just play like a pre-recorded, coding session, but you're a pro. You got this. So that was awesome. So I guess,
Thank
yeah,
you.
a few questions before we get into kind of what's next and what's new and exciting. I guess for dApp builders, what sort of dApps, right, can people build? What sort of dApps are you seeing being built, and what sort of dApps can you envision being built using Lava's RPC endpoints for Axelar, and then in general as well?
Well, I would say the best thing with Axelar is that there's a lot of cross-chain potential already, because that's what Axelar is all about, with the sending message GMP and the the ability to communicate. So I would say that pretty much Lava and Axelar are like here, because if you're trying to communicate cross-chain, there may be specific things you want to get about that chain, like different information about where the blocks are, or certain things specific to the actual chain that you can get, balances of specific
Querying state stuff.
queries, really anything. That's why I was struggling. I'm like, it's a universe worth of things that you could find out.
Very
And so,
open-ended question.
so anytime you want that, you're gonna use RPC. You're gonna use RPC, whether you know it or not, whether it's obscured in some SDK or whether it's in your face, or whether you do it directly with like a curl command from the command line. You're gonna use RPC to find this stuff out. So that's where I think Lava really can be put forward in a lot of Axelar development, because it's going to be used. That's why I like the example of Squid, because Squid already does so much of that stuff, but still, you got to have a data access method. And the real great thing about Lava is that it's a modular, decentralized, peer-to-peer data access method. So it fits in with the ethos of your app very much.
Awesome. Yeah, we love Squid. We're huge Squid fans.
Me too.
So I guess, yeah, to kind of summarize, everything that that you covered in the stream earlier, I guess two things. Walk us through the benefits of using Axelar public RPC on Lava, one for developers, and then two for node runners.
Okay, so let's start with developers. Easier question to answer, I think, for me. But the number one benefit is, like, you don't worry that you're going to have to submit a new PR to your project, that the URL has like somehow gone down, or your entire project stops functioning because the endpoint that you hard coded in is like no longer working. You got an endpoint, which is really, as I said, it's giving you peer-to-peer connections to a series of different providers based upon who's performing the best. So if you have an app which requires, constant uptime, constant availability, then you don't run the risk of, I hard coded this endpoint into my app, and now that endpoint is down, and now my app can't function.
Okay.
So that's a major benefit, I think, of IPRPC. It's just that reliability, and knowing that it's a lot of providers.
You guys have an SDK, right? Our SDK is there to just empower developers to build better dApps, to build more secure dApps, to ship quicker. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And then as far as for providers, a lot of providers are offering services, and they're doing it either out of the goodness of their heart, or they're doing it and they're having to build sort of rate limiting and certain features in to make sure that they are compensated in accordance with the demand that they receive for the endpoints that they're providing. And so Lava makes it so you don't have to think about any of that. Because essentially, if you sign up for the IP RPC and you're incentivized and you get paid by Axelar to provide, then all you have to do is allow your, it looks like my camera went out.
Oh.
I don't know how that happened. I haven't touched anything, but
we can still hear you.
yeah,
No.
okay, cool. Yeah. So all you have to do is simply provide the endpoints, and Lava will intelligently route people who are looking for those endpoints to you. So there's no advertising required. There's no complicated setup of, how am I going to get paid for this, or how am I going to rate limit, or you will automatically have distribution. You'll automatically have users, and you'll automatically have a way to make yourself compensated for what you're doing.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you. Those are very thorough answers. And yeah, I mean, seems like you guys are totally of the same ethos of, as Axelar, of making life easier for developers, allowing them to build better projects faster and with a lot less headache. So yeah, I guess we're 30 minutes in. Oh,
Yep.
I saw you briefly
Came
there.
back on. Yep.
All good. So I guess, yeah, to kind of wrap up here, do you want to walk us through, say, oh, there we go. Might have just been the background. Your background was too cool for the stream.
Okay, there we go.
There we go.
back in studio.
Hey, we're back in business. So yeah, I guess to kind of wrap things up here, you want to walk us through kind of what you're most excited about what's live now, what's coming, and then next steps for anyone watching this that's like, this is what I've been looking for. I'm really excited about this. I want to get more involved and get started.
Yeah, I think first of all, if you want to get started, go to gateway.lavanet.xyz, sign up, create an account, just play around. Like, it's really great. Just from the gateway, you can run example code, you can run example requests, and just see how quick it functions. Secondly, right now, Lava is in a great stage of evolution. We just presented Lava Phase 2. So a lot of new features have come to Lava, including things like caching. The SDK now contains a provider optimizer, which even better selects amongst the various providers behind the scenes. Never have to see it in code. And then there's a number of other features and improvements. We're working on something called constant availability, which basically is like, if Lava's blockchain ever goes kaput or halts or anything like that, you'll still be able to have your relays answered. So you're still going for 100% availability uptime. And still even more features than that. We got new docs, new website, more chains being supported. We're building IPRPC out to support even more chains. And then additionally, our specs have really improved. Our specification system is basically like a modular data access primitive for Web3. So if you have a project, doesn't even have to be a chain, maybe a project that requires specific APIs, and you wanted those APIs to be decentralized through like Lava, the same way that Axelar's endpoint is decentralized through Lava, you could create a spec and have Lava people provide on Lava for it and make calls to it through Lava.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
So awesome. a lot of really great stuff coming, and a lot of really great stuff in the works already. I would just recommend come join our Discord and talk to us. We're easygoing people.
Yeah, I mean, you seem very chill. You seem very knowledgeable. So you have Discord, you have Telegram, Twitter. We can link everything. But do you guys have a Telegram?
Oh, we don't have a Telegram channel. A lot of us are very active on Telegram, but we don't have a Telegram channel.
So any Lava Telegram channel is a scam.
Correct. And there is no token, y'all. There is no token.
Okay.
Like there is no, you know what I mean. There's no monetized token.
Yeah.
Like we have testnet tokens, of course, but if you're hearing about buying a token, it's a scam.
Especially on Telegram, it's a scam. So don't come to the Discord and say one token.
Yeah. So yeah, there is, like I said, there is a testnet token, but it is not monetized. So do not buy it.
Well, awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for hopping on our Axelar Learn demo day. Really, really great, tutorial walkthrough workshop. Really, really happy. And Yeah, we'll this will be uploaded to YouTube after the stream, so it'll be available to anyone who wants to watch it after the fact. We'll also do a quick recap on our socials and link to all of the legitimate socials that you guys have for anyone that wants to get started. And yeah, any more questions, just hop over to Lava's Discord, and yeah.
Before we wrap up, I'm so remiss, and I'm so glad somebody posted, will there ever be a token? Because I, like, very ashamedly, I'm sure our head of marketing is going to jump on me about this, but I did not mention mainnet is coming like extremely soon. You know, mainnet is right around the corner.
That
That's
is
like our
something
big
to
announcement.
mention. That is something to mention.
Yeah, mainnet coming very soon. Look to next year because mainnet is around the corner.
Awesome. Well, yeah. On that note, let's yeah. Thank you so much for joining. Mainnet coming soon. Catch them on Discord, and yeah, we'll post this stream and all the links after this ends across our socials. So, thank you so much again for joining us, and yeah, happy Friday. Have a good one.
You too. Take care. Bye bye.